Hey, this is Kelly from the Dolly Rocks.
This is Joe Queer from the Infamous Queers.
Hey, Sleepy P. Martini.
Hey, this is Indica Flower.
And you are listening to
Our Brains Hurt.
Our Brains Hurt.
Our Brains Hurt.
Losers.
Well, they needed a jingle for their stupid little show, so they called up the Jasons and we said, fuck no. Then they called us again and they gave us $20 and we wrote them a song that said, your podcast sucks. Then they gave us more money and they asked us really nice and we finally gave in and we said, all right, I'll write you a song, but it's gonna be a clone of a Screeching Weasel song that we heard a while ago. So we wrote them a jingle and it sounded really rad. It was the best little jingle that their podcast ever had, but the file got corrupted and the email didn't work. Now they're stuck without a jingle singing our brains hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. In a very non-copyright infringing sort of way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Our Brains Hurt. This episode is brought to you by PunkBox. Head over to punkboxrocks.com. That's punkboxrocks.com for your monthly subscription service to punk rock merch. Everything you would find at a punk rock merch table at a punk show, sent to your house once a month. This could include stickers, button patches, koozies, vinyl, cassettes, CDs, everything you could think of once a month. It's an awesome subscription service, punkboxrocks.com. This show is also brought to you by Merch Slut. Head over to merchslut.com for awesome band t-shirts, punk rock band t-shirts. Merch Slut gets her shirts directly from the band or the label. These are not cheap knockoffs. She also has a wide array of awesome punk rock merch. Merchslut.com. Now, let's get to the show. So what have you been up to? I know you're about to hang things up.
Yeah, I was thinking about this interview and what I was going to say. And once I decided I didn't want to do Grim Deeds anymore, I kind of just unplugged from that whole routine of thinking about songs and recording and everything I usually did for like the last 9 years. And I totally shifted my energy towards other things. So I've been studying Japanese and making some progress with that. And I've been skateboarding a lot. And I've started freestyle skateboarding, which is like, if you guys are familiar with, old skating.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and it's like it's a great experience for me because I've already been a skateboarder since 1987, but freestyle skating is such a little niche, genre within skating, and it's got its own little quirky culture. And so I got to learn all this new lore that I never knew really. And I knew about Rodney Mullen and Parrot Willander and Kevin Harris, but not really anyone else. And learning about it was really fascinating. It's almost like from a music point of view, if you've listened to punk your whole life, but then you discover some other related subgenre that you've never heard before, and you're just discovering all these new bands and these new songs and this new format. It was like that for me with the freestyle skating, and it was like almost like learning a new language of tricks and history. And the cool thing about it is you can do it anywhere, and it's not so hard on the joints. There's a lot of technical skill involved. It takes a lot of practice, and it's really difficult, but it's super fun. And I've kind of become more part of the freestyle skate community. And I did a competition in May. I went up to Canada and competed and did pretty well and made friends in different countries through Instagram and stuff. Like I'm going to be going to Japan to play my last show, but I'm also going to Yokohama to do a skate jam with some skaters there. And That's been a really cool thing for me because, it's a new community. It's a new chapter. And I think that's what I was looking for, basically.
I think I saw the video actually I think you had posted the competition you did up there. That was rad, man. Like you did really well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm 43 and I was the oldest in the amateur division. I could have been in the Masters Am, which is 40 and up, but I was like, I want to just do regular Am. And plus the way the schedule worked out, I would have had to fly home early. So I just competed as an amateur, and the two guys that took first and second were both 13, and they were like incredibly gifted skaters. Yeah, it was cool.
Awesome.
It was a fun experience.
Speaking of you saying you're 43, I guess I should throw this out there now. We found out somewhat recently that we have the same birthday.
Yeah, May 9th.
And we were off by 1 year because I was 79 and you're 80, right?
Yeah, a lot of my friends were 79 growing up. Yeah. So I always felt like the young one, but that's cool, man. Ron, how about you?
December 8th, I'm 45. No.
Oh,
46?
okay.
Wait, how old am I? I was born in 77.
77, that's cool.
So I'll be 46 in December. Yeah.
That's like Cody, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's your age.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So yeah, I mean, that's what I've been up to is just and family and work stuff. It seems to have, I don't know if it's just my routine has changed or something's changed, but it feels like I always have more shit to do at work and at home.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the music stuff constantly, I was always swimming against the current of my life, and it feels nice to not have to do that right now. And obviously, if I want to do music again, I will. But it felt like a good stopping point. And 9 years, I did like 3 albums every year for 9 years. That's plenty of shit for people to go dig through if they want to. But I also kind of felt that I wasn't as inspired, and I don't want to just keep doing it just to do it. And I wanted to also kind of divorce myself from the fear of missing out, and like you get into these habits of always sort of being on social media and working towards these different goals and things like that. And I at some point realized my inspiration is lower than it was, and the songs that I'm writing, they're not as good. So I needed to check myself and ask the question, why do you really want to keep doing this? And is there a point where you would ever stop? And turns out, I felt satisfied with everything that I'd put out, and felt like I could pass the torch. Like I kind of had mentored and supported some other similar artists, and felt like everybody was going to be fine, and I could step away and everybody would understand, which was cool. Actually, people were very supportive of it, and nobody asked me why or anything like that. It's like, yeah, it makes sense. So
do you have a plan for what you're going to do if you get the itch?
Well, I kind of do. I don't think I would do pop punk again necessarily. There's other styles that I've always wanted to do that I think I've slowly gained enough musical literacy to be able to do, like maybe some old school heavy metal stuff, like new wave of British heavy metal style, nice. Or maybe just something totally different. But I don't want to go back to doing the same shit. That was another thing, is a lot of my songwriting just was based on this pretty simple format and formula, and I ran it to its limits as far as lyrics, melodies and things that I could come up with. I think I stretched it as thin as I could and still made it meaningful. But yeah, if I wanted to do another punk album or whatever, that would be fine, but I just don't see it being necessary.
Yeah. How are you learning Japanese?
Well, I started with textbooks and websites, and then I, just for convenience, kind of transitioned into Duolingo, which is the app where you can practice listening, speaking, and reading. So I do that daily, and I had a routine where I was practicing writing and doing workbook stuff as well, and I kind of got out of that rhythm. But I'm on day 450 or something of Duolingo, and
Duolingo is pretty great, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Yeah.
They do a good job of keeping you motivated and keeping you wanting to stay on your streak. And there's little, they gamify it. So
yeah, they make it a game. They do. They literally make learning a language a game. It's kind of interesting.
Well, and I put it to the test when I was in Canada. A lot of the skaters are Japanese, and I was trying my best to converse in Japanese, and they said they could understand me. I mean, they're probably being really polite about it and stuff, but I could understand some of what they're saying, and they could understand me. And yeah, I've always wanted
language.
Yeah, it's very challenging. I feel like it's an intellectual and mental workout every time, and you have to get used to doing that, because it's the hardest part was just deciding to do it, because I knew this is going to be one of those long-term goals that's going to take like a decade or more to really get to that point where I want to be, which is fluent. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I've been in it doing the study for about 2.5 years or something. So, I'm still at a beginner level, but the nuances of the language are starting to become, more apparent, and the rhythm of the language and the vocabulary, the grammar, sentence structure stuff. And it's, to speak it, the sounds aren't that far off from Spanish, actually.
Right.
It's not tonal as much as like Chinese and Mandarin, for example. So I find it's a really fun language to learn, to speak, and I think the writing looks really cool. Hiragana, katakana, kanji. Kanji is very difficult, but you start. It's the satisfying aspect of it is you do make growth and you do see progress. It's just very slow, incremental progress. But I know way more now than I did when I started.
Rondo, don't you know Japanese?
I was fluent at one time.
Oh wow!
But it's been so when I was in the Navy, I was a Chinese linguist. So I went in Monterey, California, to the Defense Language Institute and learned Chinese. I don't hate Chinese, but it's after learning Japanese, Chinese. I hate tones. Tones suck. Tones really suck. And I love the sound of Japanese is so nice and crisp and like, just it's so nice after learning Chinese just to have like real words without having to like make noises while you're saying different tones and shit.
The tone, which I'm deaf to, by the way, which is
most people
English speaking.
English speaking are.
My son speaks Mandarin. He's in an immersion program at his school.
Oh, nice.
My wife speaks Cantonese. So I've been around Mandarin speakers ever since I've moved here.
Cantonese is even tougher than Mandarin.
Yeah, it's very tough because there's all
Don't they have like 8 tones or something? Or
there's more tones, and it's to me it sounds like a more fluid language, so the nuances are harder to catch.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, Japanese was.
Yeah,
I was way more drawn to that than any other language or culture. So
yeah, I got sent to the school that diplomats go to for State Department because we needed a Japanese linguist at my current job, and I volunteered. So they sent me. I got to study it for a year with Japanese teachers with all these like State Department people who were about to go to Japan. So I studied it for a year. It's awesome. It's a great language. Yeah. Japanese has the most sounds needed to get your point across.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like if you were to say like my car, like in English, it's my car.
Yeah, watashi no kuruma.
Watashi no kuruma desu. Yeah, but like, and in Chinese, it's just watacha.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, but it's awesome at the same time.
Yeah, and what's really interesting to me is when I hear people converse casually in Japanese, the way everything's based on the formalities of the relationship and
different ways to say
whether you can abbreviate or which pronouns you use and things like that depends on the situation. But it's I have friends in Japan, so like
that's awesome.
Comparing how they speak versus what I'm learning through Duolingo or the textbook, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. How many times have you been there?
Only once, 2015.
Okay.
And that I played a show in Tokyo. And it was really cool. And I visited Kyoto and Osaka. And this time it's going to be Tokyo and Yokohama.
That's all. I've never been. I want to go so bad.
Oh, I've heard great things about, I guess it's part of the military, right? This training that you had.
Yeah.
I heard their programs are just superior somehow. I've watched YouTube videos about it and stuff.
So being that you're going, for your second time to Japan, and the first time was to play a show too. Who's your band this time around?
Well, it's the same guys as last time. Back then they were the Earthnoid Federation, but now, the Hathways. That's what they're called. But they abbreviate the name, and they're amazing. I mean, all the musicians I met over there are incredibly skilled and very talented too. But like the skill level is really what blew me away because they're just so tight and so precise, and their harmonies are always right on. I mean, it's part of their culture. They're very disciplined and they'll put in the effort, So they've been sending me practice videos that they've been doing rehearsals and stuff, and I'm like, do I even remember the lyrics to some of the songs? My shit before I go,
I mean, the cool thing about playing like a last show in Japan too is like they show up and they have energy, man. Like, God, if nobody's ever listened or watched like live shows in Japan from like punk rock, go on YouTube and look it up immediately because it is epic. It is so epic. Yeah.
The best experience I've ever had playing a show as far as audience reception and
God,
energy and everything. Yeah, it's very special. So I feel lucky I get to do that. Yeah. Lucky I get to travel that way at all, really, but it's a good way to end it. Plus those guys have always been involved with Grim Deeds since the beginning. Like some of them have played on songs, some of them have written songs, some of them have in other aspects. And I've always been fascinated with Japan, so I always made a point of making that a feature of the whole Grim Deeds project, and making people feel like they're a part of it.
Is this the band that you somewhat recently put out like a little release with, or was that somebody else? I can't remember off the top of my head.
So on the Laptop Punk label, I put out the Hathways are the current band. The Earthnoid Federation had like this very crisply recorded EP that they never released of like their former material, which was like the Bottle Rocket Weasel style pop punk. And I was like, you guys should release that, or like let me release it. So I released that, but that represents kind of their transition into what they are now. So now a different sound. But yeah, I've released another band, The No, which they're going to play the last show. It's a band that's in a similar vein. And the Nerdy Jugheads are a band that I played with over there. They're really, really good. They're like the Teenage Bottle Rocket of Japan, basically. And then a band called the Hum Hums I played with last time. And who else is playing? I have to look at the flyer and figure it out. But I think there's going to be 4 bands.
Like the show of awesome band names.
yeah, they always have to, like, it's interesting because they sing in English and stuff, and it makes sense for the most part, but it's funny, it's quirkier because it's through the translation and through their own point of view of what the pop punk sound is that they're being influenced by, which is mainly like the Lookout and Mutant Pop styles.
Well,
TNX is the other band.
TNX.
TNX,
the album that I was thinking of that you released when I was talking about was the Grim Deeds and Pop K, the Down in Flames one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, there's a story behind that, but part of that's kind of like secretive because it's the POPK is not a real band. It's someone else who's like in the scene but didn't want to be identified, and like usually doesn't sing that way and usually doesn't write songs that are negative, but wanted to participate. And I think this was this person's way of like getting out something, channeling some negative energy and having an outlet for it. But that's probably the only time that's ever going to happen. And he does a lot of cool stuff. I don't know. I want to say who it is, but I don't think he wants to be known. But yeah, it was a unique project. I mean, he's someone who has really mastered the art of home recording way beyond what I could ever achieve. And so he can churn out studio quality albums pretty quickly, and he's very efficient, very productive, and has a ton of projects already going and other bands that he's in. So he'll remain nameless, but he's someone that is a good friend and a great musician for sure.
Nice. That's a good album. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah, his songs are really good on that one. And yeah, I just had mine were all just re-recordings of songs that a lot of times what I would do is look for opportunities to work with someone who could record better than me. And I would just pick a handful of songs that I liked that I knew didn't sound that great because I recorded them, and then just redo them. Kind of took a page out of Kepi Guli's book that way, because he's done a lot of great albums and then he's re-recorded plenty of songs. So you've got different versions of them out there. And some people really strongly prefer that crisp, full studio sound, which is understandable. But I like to have a little bit of both, kind of the budget garage DIY style, and then some a bit more official sounding stuff as well.
You know Kepi, right?
Yeah. I consider him a friend for sure. He's always been really kind and supportive to me, and I played a show with him once, and I've seen him here and there.
He's like such a great human. My God.
Yeah, so cool.
He's rare. Just his enthusiasm, his positivity, and community spirit, and he's a rock and roll shark, and he just keeps going.
Yeah.
And he's had like great success on this last album, and like it's been I think he kind of stated it on one of his posts, like he's been given so many second chances, and here's another example of him firing on all cylinders with B-Face and Adam and touring, and great album, great label behind him, and he deserves it for sure. He's a legend.
Yeah, I was so like, for who he is, I was very surprised at his level of wanting to be involved with just like every little aspect of, when we booked his show at the Fox Hop in DC. Yeah, he played one of our shows, and like we booked, they reached out to, I think they reached out to you, Ron, right? I can't remember how that exactly happened.
Kat from Crawl Space Booking. Kepi is under her umbrella of bands. And we've done the Dolly Rots a couple times.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, so when she knew Kepi wanted to come to DC, she hit me up, and we hosted him last month. It was awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think you guys both met my friend Christian there at that show.
Yeah.
Yes.
My buddy since 8th grade. He lives
Christian is cool, man. We talked for like more than an hour, probably, actually.
Yeah, you guys should stay in touch, talk music stuff. He's in a band in DC, Rail Splitter, that's really excellent.
Yeah, he sent me their stuff. Actually, we've texted back and forth a little bit. So I'm actually gonna have him. I'm gonna schedule him for an episode here coming up.
Oh, that would be cool. He would love it.
Yeah.
He's a philosophy major, and he's one of the most intelligent people I know, and he's my best friend. So it's been cool to know that we're all connected now.
Yeah, and going back to the Kepi thing, like Ron and I were just gonna talk to him, at the show, and you'd be like, "Hey, would you be interested in doing an episode of the podcast or whatever?" And like, we didn't even get that far because he hit me up just randomly and was like, "Hey, you're one of the guys booking, the DC show for," and I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You guys have that podcast. How about we do an episode to promote the show?" And I was like, "Yep." and from there, he just like wanted to be involved in everything. Like, he's the nicest guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So easy to work
he's
with.
All in. Yeah, he's an all in dude. And all you have to be is just be sincere and be yourself. And like I don't know how he does it, honestly, because he puts out more positivity, I think, than most people are capable of. And still, he's a human being. So, we all have our struggles, but he's really professional and really, I think he's very sincere in his mission. And I think it shows, like, his music.
So good live.
Oh my God, so good.
Yeah. The energy level is perfect. The songs are great. And, the times I've seen him play, those are some of the most purely fun experiences I've had at shows, where everyone's dancing, everyone's stoked.
Yeah.
No negativity at all, really. It's great.
Yeah.
It's such a great vibe that night. Like, the people that were there to see him were like super, super stoked to see him. Mm-hmm. And just like the whole night had just like this really, really great just vibe,
Yeah.
Amazing. He's been at it since the 80s,
Yeah, it's crazy to be at it that long and like to still like kind of carry that, like, that vibe or that energy with you of just like positivity and just, I don't know, warmth, love. It's like, something that's hard to explain.
He's the real deal. He's the real deal, and it's his life. It's who he is. And like, for me, I don't know if I would describe myself as like a musician. I'm a teacher. I'm a husband. I have these hobbies, and like, I'm stoked on them. I'm passionate about them. But like, he's the real deal. Like, he's dedicated his life to music and doing his art, and it's very inspiring.
Yeah, when I got to the club, like, he got there before me, and I was walking around to unlock the back door to let him load in and stuff. And I went up to the van, and he and B-Face were just sitting there doing their artwork.
Yeah,
awesome.
man.
And they were both so nice.
Oh, they're both super cool. B-Face is very similar in how sincere and kind he is. And they're both very talented guys, and one of the cool things about doing this Grim Deeds project is I got to become friends with a lot of these people who I really looked up to, and they were, inspirational figures. Mm-hmm. And now I can like text them and stuff. So it's cool.
Yeah, totally.
It's so weird, like how small of a world it really becomes when you start doing all that stuff.
Yeah. But these days now, especially at our age, we can reach out to people. You can reach out to people from your childhood, your teenage years who inspired you. They're out there, and a lot of them at this point in their lives probably appreciate hearing from people like us. Skateboarding's the same way, like pro skaters are like, my era is like the 90s, so I could reach out to some of these guys and be like, "Hey man, like, what's up?"
Yeah.
And it's
awesome.
I couldn't have imagined doing that growing up, becoming friends with people that
I know. Yeah.
Bands that you liked or something.
Yeah. It's so crazy, like just knowing Joe Queer,
Yeah.
Just like just going up to him and like he knows my name and just shaking his hand and just bullshitting with him. It's like growing up, he was like, a fucking punk rock god to me. And I
Yeah.
15-year-old Ron fainted.
Yeah. Well, back then, I mean, if you saw them play, you had like just that night, and then who knows if you'd ever see him again, or you could do fan mail, write, letters and stuff. But now everybody's so connected. It's something I try not to take for granted. I mean, all the stuff I've done is based on the internet. Really, think about it.
Yeah.
All the music I've done, all the interviews, the label, all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, for all the shit that the internet can bring, it definitely brings some awesomeness too.
I mean, you can use it as a tool for good,
Oh yeah,
it can be used that way.
Yeah, for creativity and networking and connecting people and forming communities, it's amazing.
Have you ever had students like find out who Grim Deeds was and like ask you about it? And
yeah, honestly, that's part of the reason I felt I needed to eventually stop doing it, because every once in a while you get a very precocious student who really wants to like find out everything about it, and then they see like public suicide. What the fuck is that song about? It's a song about smoking weed and jerking off, and I'm like, yeah. And they're smart enough to know, like, and they make the connection, and they're like, oh, could you get fired for this? And I'm like, maybe. So I try to not even mention it anymore. And then that's always been a concern of mine, to be honest, because my role there, like, they've never heard me swear in the classroom. They've never seen me in any, and they might see me get annoyed sometimes, but in general, I'm very kind and supportive, and that's a role I take very seriously. So I don't want to confuse them with this other alter ego or persona to make them question me. So, I mean, usually interest level's pretty low anyway. If I mention I'm a musician, they just assume that they're not going to be into it. But there've been some times where I felt scared.
Yeah.
I had a music video called "I Don't Give a Fuck," and I ended up taking it off of YouTube because some students found it. And I've had a few other things that I've done strategically to try to keep it away. But now, I mean, if you Google my name, it does come up. So, but now I can kind of say like, yeah, it's something I used to do, and I still, would say it's important to be creative and to express yourself and to have projects. And for every song that has the negative lyrics or inappropriate lyrics, there's so many other songs that are deeply sincere and have a very specific affirming message as well. So if I ever got audited for my output and whether it was good or bad influence on my students, I think I'd have just as many songs that I could say are a good influence.
Yeah. Well, like even some of the stuff that you may consider negative to like students or something, in in that realm, like sometimes like the yin and the yang, like the good with the bad. Yeah. Like I think it's important to understand for like younger people to see the flaws sometimes in some of their idols, or to hey, we're all only human. Like I'm gonna have my bad days as well too. Like it allows them to see that you are just that, human.
Yeah. And I mean, if I'm dealing with 11-year-olds, 6th grade versus 8th grade, 8th grade's a lot more mature. Yeah. That changes how I can speak on it. But I mean, the 8th graders are probably the least interested in stuff that I do. 6th graders kind of like wanting to please the teacher, more curious, more, want to investigate. So, I mean, there's different things. What I would say now, if a kid asked me about it, it's like, yeah, I'm a musician. I've had a lot of different projects. That's one of my projects. And I don't bring it up at school because not all of it's very school appropriate. This is something that I was passionate about. And it hasn't been a big deal. I think also like my reputation as a teacher is good enough where, I don't think it would become an issue. And I always maintain good relationships with the community. And, if it came down to it, I could explain myself, but hopefully that won't happen. He who cannot be named from the Dwarves, he's also in education, and he's had some other experiences like where he maybe too harsh towards a student, or and giving a consequence or something, and then they like tried to use it against him, and got his bosses to have to call him in and like ask him about it and stuff. So you do have to be careful when you're a public figure. It's your responsibility to set a good example, and in the school community, that's very important because teachers are really under the lens, so to speak. A lot of scrutiny on the profession, and for good reason, because some people really fuck up and do stupid shit and abuse their position. And having a hobby where you write weird songs is not as bad as like crossing the line with a student in a some kind of physical way or something. But it's enough to make me concerned. I remember my mom was concerned about it, and my wife used to be an attorney, so she was a bit concerned about it too. And I think time and distance just will take care of it. And it's made me more mindful too about if I do go back into doing some music, like what direction do I want to take? Because I don't think I have the need to write such like blunt, vulgar lyrics. I think it would be a lot more nuanced. And if you look at my later output, it's a lot more nuanced and more metaphors and things that are, I guess, a little bit more like real poetry rather than just kind of shocking displays of whatever I'm trying to get across.
It's also cool though for like kids to see that you could be a professional and a teacher and still have fun, like still do what you love on the side.
I think it's really, really important. I mean, I share the skate stuff with them, and that's more relatable and safer, for me to share with them. But I mean, the thing about it is the Grim Deeds project is very personal. I wrote about a lot of really personal things and wanted it to be relatable to people and wanted to have a deep connection with people who are interested in it. And so there's a big risk that you take in doing that to begin with. And if there's if it's misinterpreted or it gets out in the wrong way, then that can be not a good thing.
It's kind of crazy, the scrutiny that teachers, especially like elementary school through high school level, have to go through for the amount of pay they get.
It's not enough. I mean, the only reason I'm here is just because my family situation. I live with my wife's family. It's simple as that. I wouldn't be able to afford a home here. Even rent would be pretty hard.
I do not understand how this country isn't as up in arms at all over this. It's a great. These are the people who are spending more time with your children essentially than you are as parents.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's considered an essential service, essential role. And then we get like occasionally in the district email, like shared housing opportunities, like you could be roommates with a bunch of other random people. That sound good for you and your family? Like,
doesn't that sound awesome?
Yeah, like below market rate, come check it out. And the majority of teachers I work with commute from far away. I live in a nice little affluent suburb, and I live in the same place where I teach. So I see my students all the time, and that's its own little issue. But that's fine. But I mean, that's always been something that I've had to accept, and it hasn't been easy to accept that despite having worked 15 years in this profession and reached a pretty high level of pay and respect, I still can't be, I'm not financially independent really. Yeah. Because I'm relying on having like a pretty much a free place to live, but it's also where I raise my son, and it's a great environment for him. So it's worth it.
Yeah. I have the utmost respect, especially for like elementary school teachers, because like not only or in middle school as well, but like because not only all the stuff you just said, like very hard to be financially independent. On top of that, teaching in itself requires a massive amount of patience, especially if you're dealing with young kids. So you have that, and then on top of that, you have a state curriculum and a federal curriculum that you have. So you may not even be able to teach the things that you really want to teach. You have to teach, which also can be frustrating. Yeah. In itself. There's just so many levels of it. And yet there's still people that dedicate themselves to doing it, which
some people say it's a calling, and I can understand that. I mean, it feels very natural for me to be doing it. And it's not something that I sought out. I didn't know that I wanted to be a teacher until I worked retail for enough years and realized that sucked. So I had to try something. I became a substitute, and I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then one thing led to another. But yeah, I mean, there are plenty of great teachers out there, man. And sometimes when I meet these people, it's like an instant connection, almost in the same way that we connect with music and skating and stuff. And it's a deep connection. But there's also a lot of fucking idiots too.
Yep.
And that's how it is everywhere in any
It is, yeah.
profession. But it's very disheartening to see it in the classroom because you know
Yeah.
these kids are forced to be there every day, and here's this person that probably isn't aware, but they're just not doing a good job.
Right.
And I see that a lot. People come and go, you know, people go up to higher levels, go to administration or whatever. It's just a very complicated little ecosystem. And then it varies wherever you are, you know, like the experience of teaching here where I live versus like just, 20 miles away could be like night and day, depending on the level of socioeconomic status and resources and what the kids experience in their daily lives.
Yeah, I was a permanent substitute teacher at a school when I first got out of the Navy for like a few months. It was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, that's a good position.
Yeah.
Because it's like you get to enjoy all the good parts without having so much of the
responsibility or
procedural responsibilities, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of responsibility involved, but you know, there's like the minutia of grading and setting up blah, 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 and meetings and all that crap.
Yep.
But it's a good job. But I was thinking, man, I mean, I will have to do it another 20 years to retire with the pension and everything. And that's 20 years seems like a pretty long time.
Yeah.
No, hopefully I'll make it.
In your 60s.
I've been in at 15 and I got 20 to go before my retirement would kick in. So
unfortunately, every year goes by faster than the last. I'm realizing that as I get up to 45.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, huh? Yeah, the years are starting to go by.
Like it's June. I can't believe it's June already. It was Christmas 2 weeks ago, and now it's June. Like
we started this podcast yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, it's almost 3 years
How long
later.
have you guys been doing it? Like a couple years, right?
It'll be 3 years in September.
Yeah.
So I
It'll be 3 years or 2 years? 3 years.
3 years.
Shit.
It'll be 3 years. Because remember we had our 100th episode was the exact same day as our 2-year anniversary.
That's right. It's
just worked out that way. It's crazy.
Wow.
Well, you guys are doing a great job. It's a great contribution, and I value podcasts. I think it's a great format for like building community and providing, entertainment and stuff too. But I learn a lot by listening to the conversations, and I gain perspective from it. I've become like an avid listener of podcasts and interviews just as much as music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love when people hear a band for the first time on our show, and they're like, "That song was awesome," or whatever. Like that's kind of why Matt and I started this, and so. And that happens a lot. And whenever it does, it's like, we help this person's band like get heard by, even if it's just like 5 other people that start listening to them, like
for sure. Well, for me, music is community and songs are communication. And so what you guys are doing is essentially that. You're skilled, gifted communicators. You have the social skills and you have the vision of what you're trying to do. And it's a great contribution.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Last time you were on the show, did we ask you the 3 questions that we ask everybody?
When I said that I would press a record of Grim Deed songs with my ashes and give it to John Kokonakis because he's like the ultimate dude. And,
tell me he's going to be at your show.
Oh, he lives in Greece, so I don't think he'll be able to fly to Japan for that. It'd just be the.
Oh well, I don't know how long you've had this planned. Maybe you guys could have communicated. I don't know. Yeah.
Christian has met John though. Christian went on a trip to Greece and they met up because John was also part of our little, we had like a little heavy metal clique, like a online message board that we made, and he was part of it. So Christian's hung out with John.
Actually, I think that actually came up while we were talking, him and I. I think I had mentioned the Greek dude. I was like the guy in Greece, and I think he had said, "Oh yeah, I actually met him."
Yeah.
That's hilarious, though. That's that is John Kokonakis. If you're listening to this,
he might.
Massive shout out to you, dude.
He is one of the kindest, and dude, he's deep into like all kinds of music. He knows so much. He's a scholar of music. Really, he's really well versed in metal, but he knows a lot about punk, and he's paid to download every album, every song I've ever done. And I've like asked for his input on a lot of stuff. He like helped me sequence some albums and like I've written songs about him and stuff. So yeah, that's like a really unique thing.
Does he speak English?
Yeah, very well. Yeah. I mean, I haven't spoken to him on the phone or in person, but just through written communication is always very clear.
Cool.
I think like most countries, bilingual, being bilingual is just kind of something that's expected.
Yeah, I think
Not
so.
Yeah,
like the US, it's like,
It's
wow,
just-
I speak
Just
another
not in the
language.
US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or here it's like, wait, you speak another language. Where are you from? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
shit like that. But most people here are bilingual, at least. Yeah, because a lot of the students I serve are from India or China or Russia or
Mhm.
Brazil or Japan or Mexico or all these different places. So they all have a second language.
Yeah, I knew I needed a second language. That's why I know about Duolingo, because I had started doing Spanish on there, but I fell off of it because I got too busy. I need to get back
Yeah,
on.
but you can pick it back up again. Spanish is I mean, when you listen to native speakers, it's like, damn, it's so fast. But you just have to train yourself, train your ear for it. And I want to get back into doing some Spanish too, because that was the language I took in school. But I was just so half-assed about everything back in school. So
Oh yeah. So I
now
took
when
German.
you're older, you can meet your goals because
Yeah.
you have like the work ethic that you need, and you realize like, oh, there's not much time. I better do it.
I can understand a good bit of Spanish because I was an electrician
Mhm.
in a former life and used to work alongside a lot of
Yeah.
Mexican dudes and South American dudes, all the drywall guys and all that stuff coming onto construction sites. And I kind of, I picked up a lot of the nuances and how to,
That's the way to learn it too.
yeah, kind of communicate. Like I can't speak it, but I can understand a lot of it.
Mhm.
Well, that's the best connection, man. When you are meeting someone for the first time, and even just making an effort, it instantly gives you and that other person some kind of basis to connect.
Mhm.
I got to help this old lady in the grocery store just the other day. She couldn't figure out how to scan things, and the dude who's working there in the self checkout, I see this guy all the time. He's just a very miserable guy, and he's like pretty negative, and he wasn't really helping her. He's like, you need to weigh it properly. You need to weigh it properly. And I was like, oh, shit. And I just went over and started helping her. And then she was very, very thankful. And then she said, arigato gozaimasu, because she just did some English. She's like, doi tashimaste oba-san, and she's like, I couldn't believe it. Answered her. And that felt great, So
Yeah.
it pays to be kind, and it pays to know other languages, because that's like another way you can connect with people.
Yeah.
It's always been crazy to me that, like, for whatever reason, the US is like the country of like the least, people from here know the least amount of languages, like per average person, versus like countries from all the rest around the world.
Well, I
like
think if you look at just geographically,
yeah,
if you're in Europe, you're constantly
and that makes sense.
mixing
It
with
totally
other.
does.
Yeah. It's
also
easy to be
that-
sheltered here.
Yeah,
There's so many dialects and accents in America. It's pretty striking.
Yeah.
just-
there's so many, and I know some people are probably going to cringe at me saying this, but there's so many intelligent people in the United States. Like I almost can't say that with a straight face, but there's so many intelligent people in the US. And it's weird to me that a lot of them still only know one language, and I I'm in that group. Maybe not so much the intelligent part, but the part about not only knowing
Yeah, I was gonna say
one
slow
language.
down.
Really.
Yeah, it's embarrassing for me to face like a lot of this stuff that I don't know readily, that I would have to look up on Google, and now we're at an age where if we decide to, we can keep our minds active and learn a bunch of new stuff, like explore different aspects of life in the world, and that's what I intend to do. And that's another cool thing about kind of retiring from doing this music stuff for now, because it opens up doors.
Yeah.
And,
Well, getting to know you over the past couple years, I think you have a lot to offer to people. I
Oh,
think
thanks.
that there's some worth in watching what Grim Deeds does.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, one thing I do intend to do more of in time is more interviews, and maybe not in a podcast format, but some kind of format, because I've always enjoyed these conversations.
Yeah.
Conversations
Get on your freestyle skating videos. I gotta check those.
Oh,
out.
dude. The one you posted on Instagram, I think it was Instagram. Maybe it was Facebook, but
Yeah,
it's like you're in like a circle kind of arena that's like a white floor, dude. It was so rad. Like you nailed that, dude. You nailed it.
like I said, I've been skating a long time, but to train for this competition was totally a different experience. It's almost like figure skating, but on a skateboard. So you have a song and a routine, and you practice that routine over and over and over and over again. I trained for like 6 months, and it was very difficult because I didn't want to go out and make a fool out of myself. So I had to really commit to it. And also I have all these, years of skating, I've injured myself plenty. And so my ankles are pretty, unstable. I wore 2 ankle braces while I was skating in that contest. And the stamina, like I work out, I try to keep myself in good shape, but, with the nerves and getting out there in front of people and skating for that, it's 1.5 minutes is all you got for your run. You get two runs per heat, but, it really, it's physically and mentally like very challenging.
Do you use an old school board?
Now I do. See, the cool thing about it is freestyle has evolved. So a lot of freestyle skaters are riding a kind of a popsicle shaped board, just a little bit smaller wheelbase, maybe a little bit skinnier. But in general, you can see a lot of skaters riding boards that look pretty normal. One thing that's pretty different though is on the flip side of the board, there's skid plates. So in the 80s,
Rail guards.
Nose guard, tail guard. Skid plates are kind of like that, but the purpose of them is there's a lot of tricks in freestyle where you're dragging your tail and sliding, and so you don't want to get razor tail and have like super sharp wood and wear down your board. So these things prevent that from happening, and they slide really well. It's kind of like a waxed ledge or something. So when you're sliding on your tail, you can manipulate the board and stuff. But currently, I'm riding a board that's really different than a regular board. It's the smallest board that I've ever ridden. It's a Kevin Harris model from like 1988 or 89, and it's really skinny, really flat, no nose, and barely any kicktail. Like it's like a 10 degree board, but the design is perfect for the kind of skating that I want to do now. It's like balance tricks, spins, a lot of like fundamentals, but taken to like a mastery level. That's what I've been trying to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Went into, speaking of skateboarding, went into the skate shop here owned by my buddy Mark, who I think maybe you probably skated with back in the day. But he has been a large proponent of getting this place an actual physical, real nice skate park. And it's finally happening. Like,
which city?
Well, Fredericksburg and Stafford got together. It's in Stafford County, but it's like, right next to the river. So the other side of the river is Fredericksburg, but they're taking Brooks Park, which is already a skate park, but it's a bunch of ramps and stuff that are old and need repair. And
I remember that place.
Yeah. Well, Brooks Park, they're tearing everything that's there down, and they're building on that court an actual real, like badass, like couple $1 million concrete skate park. Yeah. And they're supposed to be breaking ground at the end of this month.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, because everything, Curtis Park was all DIY, Brooks Park was all DIY, and the Westhoff brothers did an amazing job of keeping that scene alive in the early 2000s. But Fredericksburg's kind of similar to where I grew up, Winchester, Virginia. Winchester doesn't have a skate park either. Front Royal does, which is like maybe 10 miles away, and it's a smaller town, but they have a huge, amazing skate park because they just had the right people to organize and promote it.
Winchester might now. Do you know? They may. Well, Winchester has done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know there's been more things going on there. They have a DIY place. My mom sends me newspaper articles whenever she sees something about skating in the Winchester Star. So I've seen a few things. But I still get the sense that the community isn't really backing it the way that the rest of the country has embraced skating. Yeah. I mean, now it's rare for a town not to have a skate park, whereas when we were growing up, it was rare for them to have one.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Things have changed.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but we're getting the professional one finally.
That's great.
After all these years.
Yeah, I have to come session it, man. Well,
yeah, you should, man. You should come back to the East Coast and visit for a weekend or something.
I'm definitely due for a visit. I haven't been back since 2012, so
you hit us up if you do come back.
Yeah,
I definitely will for sure.
Yeah,
go to DC, go to Richmond, Fredericksburg, wherever I can go, hang out.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you guys. I don't want to keep you all night. It's been a really great conversation. And,
thanks so much for doing this again.
Yeah, and
my pleasure.
and promote the hell out of your
Yes.
out of the show. This is the final. We didn't even really talk all that much about it. This is the final
yeah.
Grim Deeds show. This is the farewell Grim Deeds show. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, probably no one listening will be able to go, but it's like symbolically important to me that it's in Japan and that it's it's the last one. I have to check and see if I have enough makeup to I don't know if I need to buy.
we have some downloads in Japan. It's not many, but we do have some downloads in Japan. So there might be some Japanese fans out there.
Right on.
Might be.
That's good. Spread the message. And,
You gonna videotape it at all, or?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be some recordings of it and throw it up on YouTube. And
Awesome.
yeah, this is going to be a trip. It's a good what do you call it, milestone, and then we'll just move on, see what happens after that.
Awesome.
Yeah, guys.
Cool, man. Well, keep us posted and keep in touch.
And good
Of
luck.
course, you guys are friends, man. So I'm really stoked we connected, and small world. So we know some of the people, and it's all love, bro.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Thanks for putting me in, and have a good night.
Yeah, you too, man.
Hey, you too, dude.
Right,
Always a pleasure.
Hails.
Hails.
Later, guys.
Later.
Thanks for hanging out for another week. Be sure to check out punkboxrocks.com and merchslut.com. Check us out on all social media outlets at Our Brains Hurt and at ourbrainshurt.com. We will talk to you next week. Stay safe. Adios.
How do I do this shit? I can still hear you. So what do I have to press? Close.